Hello everyone and welcome back to Oba's Trending Gist. Today we are diving into one of the most debated topics in Nigeria right now, the economy and specifically the floating of the Naira. The current administration's decision to unify the exchange rate was a massive economic shock and the pain is still being felt by millions. But was there a better way? So, in a recent in-depth interview on Arise TV, former presidential candidate Peter Obi laid out his alternative strategy. Rotus then followed up with a sharp analysis that puts these two different economic philosophies head to head. This is a crucial debate because it gets to the heart of how to fix a struggling economy. Do you rip the band-aid off quickly or do you treat the wound slowly and hope it heals over time? Let's break it down. First, let's look at what Peter Obi himself had to say about how he would have handled the Naira. Just sit back and take a watch.
Particularly, the focus has been the chatter since that interview was the floating of the Naira and how he said he would approach it in a gradual manner while boosting productivity first. So here's that part of that clip.
Dealing with what you're talking about, issue of Naira. There's nothing wrong with floating your currency. There's nothing wrong in even devaluing your currency. But you do this when you have productivity. What devaluation or floating does is that your currency becomes, in terms of value, low. You attract investment.
So would you have floated the Naira if you got in? And how? You said there's nothing wrong with it. Would you have floated the Naira? Tell me the precept upon precept at which you will have floated the Naira.
I would have been doing it in an organized manner.
What's the organized manner?
I would have focused on making sure that we ramp up production in agriculture, in manufacturing, and everything, and do it gradually.
So, but you will have kept on defending it until we ramp up production.
It's not, you're not defending it.
Yeah.
Because even in the so-called currency, there were criminality as well.
Right. So, it's again, a lot of chatter since then. The thing is that there's been a lot of focus on the urgency in devaluing the currency, right? And when he talks about boosting productivity, what are the building blocks for boosting productivity? It's not just education, it's also skills. We're just talking before we came on air. Adefemi knows how to use Adobe Premiere Pro. Vimba, you know how to use CapCut. Final Cut, excuse me. CapCut is the other app. Faith she knows how to, our correspondent in Abuja, knows how to operate a camera, right? So if someone else was to get sick, a technician or something, you can fill in because you've got skills that are attributable to your role in addition to what you do. Also need electricity, also need technology. The amount of time it would take to boost this while you are gradually floating the Naira essentially would not address some of the other urgent issues. Another was the $7 billion backlog that was cleared by the central bank. The reason why that backlog grew to $7 billion was because there was not enough foreign exchange in order to give to foreign companies that were trying to repatriate their profits out of Nigeria. So if you give Naira to an airline, when you're paying for tickets, that airline would take your Naira, go to the central bank and say, hey, this is all my accumulated Naira profits. I need to convert this to dollars so I can exit the country. There was not enough foreign exchange. So you had, over time, if you are gradually devaluing, you are still not able to address the backlog that has been building because of FX scarcity. So a third thing is the chart I've used several times that shows the gap between the parallel markets and the official rates. If you go all the way back to January of 2023, if your auntie in Florida was to send you $1,000, would you go through official channels and change it at 400 to get 400,000? Or would you go to the parallel markets and get 800,000? You would go to the parallel market. So the official channels were suffering because of the fact that the parallel market was dictating the rate. So you see the chart moving all the way to the right to October 2020 when you have a unification. You don't need to go to the parallel markets. It comes through official channels. And it was because the Naira is at a level where it is fully liberalized. You find the level. The government has told investors you can bring your money in and take it out. Foreign exchange comes in, you pay off the backlog, and you are able to unify the rate. So what was coming was, hey, listen, I wish he had gone into a little bit further. How would he have been able to address the backlog and address the unification of the rates with a very partial, gradual, we're not sure what percentage he was referring to, partial devaluation of the currency.
Okay, let's unpack that. Peter Obi's core argument is what I would call a production-first approach. He's not against floating the Naira, but he believes it must be done in an organized manner. For him, that means you first have to fix the fundamentals. You ramp up national productivity, especially in agriculture and manufacturing, so that your economy is gradually producing goods for export and earning foreign currency. Only after you have that productive base in place would you then gradually allow the Naira to float to find its real value. On the surface, it sounds logical. A currency should be backed up by a productive economy, right? But this is where the analysis from Rotus really highlights the other side of the coin. Rotus points out the urgency of the situation that the new government faced. He explained that boosting productivity isn't a switch you can flip. It requires building blocks like a skilled workforce, reliable electricity, and advanced technology. Putting those in place isn't a 1 year or 2 project. It could take a decade or more. And while you are waiting for all that to happen under Peter Obi's gradual plan, what happens to the immediate problems? Rotus brings up 2 critical issues. First, the massive 7 billion foreign exchange backlog. This was money that foreign companies like airlines had earned in Nigeria but couldn't get out of the country because the central bank didn't have enough dollar. This backlog was destroying investors' confidence who would bring money into a country they couldn't get out. Second, and more importantly, was the huge gap between the official exchange rate and the parallel or black market rate. As Rotus' chart shows, before the float, the official rate was around 460 Naira. Parallel market was over 800. If you are sending money to Nigeria, you would never use the official channel. This means the official system was starved of dollars, which created the backlog in the first place. Peter Obi's gradual approach would have kept this damaging gap open for years while waiting for productivity to catch up. So which approach is better? While Peter Obi focuses on productivity, it is a vital long-term goal that every Nigerian leader should have. Rotus Analysis currently identifies the immediate nature of the crisis. The Nigerian economy was bleeding from the wound of a dysfunctional dual exchange rate system. A gradual approach would have been like slowly applying a small bandage while the patient continues to lose blood. The current administration's decision to float the Naira immediately was like performing emergency surgery. It's incredibly painful and the recovery is brutal. We are all seeing with hyperinflation. However, it instantly addressed the core urgent problems. It unifies the exchange rates, killed the arbitrage incentive, allowed the $7 billion backlog to be cleared, and created a clearer, more transparent market for investors. In this specific context, the approach Rotus analyzed, the rip the band-aid off strategy, was arguably the more pragmatic and necessary one to stop the immediate economic hemorrhaging, even if the side effects are severe. But what do you think? Was the slow and steady approach better, or was the painful but fast shock necessary? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more breakdowns. See you in the next one.